Hey everyone, let's just dive right into this explainer. Today, we're looking at what is absolutely, without a doubt, one of the most significant, margin-expanding economic revolutions of our time. We're talking about the convergence of AI and synthetic biology. So, for those of you managing bottom lines, overseeing R&D budgets, or charting long-term strategic growth, listen up, because this isn't just some cool science experiment. We are literally moving from a world of manual trial-and-error biology into an era of rapid algorithmic design. We're going to dive straight into how AI-driven synthetic biology is an immediate, margin-expanding economic revolution. To truly wrap our heads around the scale of this economic shift, we really need to look backward for just a second. Think about your own legacy research and development pipelines. Now, I want you to ask yourself, historically, what did it cost a pharmaceutical company to map the three-dimensional structure of just one single protein? Go on, just take a guess. The answer? A staggering $100,000. I mean, you are essentially buying a high-end luxury sports car just to get a 3D picture of a single molecule. And honestly, that's just the financial sticker shock. Using traditional experimental lab methods, things like X-ray crystallography or cryo-electron microscopy, it would routinely take months or even years just to determine that one structure. You were paying this massive premium for a slow, highly technical, and incredibly inefficient process that fundamentally bottlenecked the speed of biological innovation. And this brilliantly illustrates the staggering economic delta we're looking at today. We are moving from those traditional lab methods that cost $100,000 and took years to deep learning models that achieve near atomic accuracy in a matter of minutes. And get this, at a projected cost of mere cents per structure. Cents! That's not just an incremental improvement, right? That is a total collapse of historical R&D cost structures. So here's our roadmap for unpacking all of this today. We'll start by breaking the R&D bottleneck, look at the ROI of AlphaFold and deep learning, and then get into optimizing data and genetic circuits. From there, we'll touch on designing sustainable biomaterials, governing biosecurity risks, and finally, the broader shift toward a bio-based economy. All right, let's jump right into Section 1, breaking the R&D bottleneck. Now, if you operate anywhere near the biotech or pharma sectors, you are painfully familiar with its historic productivity crisis. Bringing a single new drug to market historically takes 10 to 15 years and costs an estimated $2.6 billion. And honestly, the worst part? The failure rate is a massive 90 to 95%. I mean, think about it. If a venture capital fund failed 95% of the time, they'd literally be out of business in a week. But in legacy pharma, well, that's just Tuesday. You're essentially pouring billions into a system where almost every single candidate is destined to fail. But as we move forward, we can see how AI builds a vastly more efficient model. It's reshaping every single phase of this pipeline. In target discovery, machine learning interrogates massive datasets to map pathways. Then, in preclinical screening, virtual screening completely replaces those expensive lab assays. Lead optimization uses generative scaffolding to refine molecules. And the bottom line result? Deep learning is achieving up to a 40% time savings and a 30% cost reduction, specifically in the preclinical and optimization stages for challenging targets. It's basically a fail-fast approach that stops bad compounds from eating up your research capital. Which naturally brings us to Section 2, AlphaFold and Deep Learning ROI. So the real engine behind all this acceleration is artificial intelligence that can predict structural biology. To define this clearly for you, AlphaFold is DeepMind's breakthrough AI model. It leverages deep learning to predict the 3D structures of proteins directly from their amino acid sequences, and it does this with near atomic accuracy. For your operations, this means it completely eliminates the need for physical protein crystallization. It essentially algorithmically solved the protein folding problem that had baffled scientists for over 50 years, turning a huge physical lab bottleneck into a scalable computational process. The sheer scale of this computational output is honestly hard to overstate. AlphaFold alone has predicted over 200 million protein structures. It essentially provided high-quality predictions for nearly every protein known to science. Meanwhile, Meta's ESM-fold algorithm processed an astonishing 600 million putative protein structures in just 2 weeks using a network of GPUs. Just let that magnitude sink in for a second. 2 weeks to map 600 million structures. And the crazy thing is, these models match or even surpass the accuracy of traditional experimental methods for 90% of proteins. It is an absolute, unbelievable compression of innovation timelines. All right, moving right along to Section 3, optimizing data and genetic circuits. Predicting a protein structure is really just the first step. The next big leap is replacing all that manual trial and error by leveraging machine learning to analyze massive biological datasets and actually design new, optimized biological systems. So the crucial point is understanding systems like the automated recommendation tool, or ART. Think of genetic circuits kind of like programming a highly optimized cellular assembly line. Instead of scientists guessing which genetic tweak will make a cell produce more of a drug, AI predicts and recommends the exact optimal strains for successive engineering cycles. It automates the entire design, build, test, learn cycle, making biomanufacturing exponentially more efficient. And the market is reacting exactly as you'd expect to this level of automation. The global AI and synthetic biology market was valued at around $94.7 million in 2024. But driven by this newfound ability to automate biological engineering, it's projected to absolutely explode to $438.4 million by 2034. That's a compound annual growth rate of roughly 16.6%. Capital is just flooding in right now because the ROI of automated discovery is completely undeniable.
Which leads us to Section 4, Designing Sustainable Biomaterials.
Now, it's absolutely vital to understand that the economic benefits of AI protein design extend way beyond just the pharmaceutical industry and drug development, because we can now design entirely novel proteins and enzymes completely from scratch. Companies are leveraging AI to create sustainable materials that open up brand new, margin-expanding value chains. We're talking about using AI-powered synthetic biology to create really high-quality vegan leather alternatives, design perfectly biodegradable plastics, and optimize complex metabolic pathways for the enzymatic synthesis of next-generation biofuels. It's a massive expansion into industrial sustainability that's literally turning biology into the ultimate green manufacturing platform. Of course, we have to talk about the flip side in Section 5, Governing Global Biosecurity Risks. With any disruptive capability comes risk, and for executives, strategic foresight and governance are just as important as the technological breakthroughs themselves. As this quote from the Biosecurity Handbook points out, AI bioconvergence creates an ungoverned space where novel threats emerge faster than regulations can adapt. We have to impartially recognize that current global frameworks are just unprepared for this. The Biological Weapons Convention, for example, relies on voluntary declarations and completely lacks digital monitoring. It was designed to regulate physical pathogens, not algorithmic biological code or AI-enabled pathogen design. This regulatory gap is a significant risk factor for the entire value chain. So to mitigate these risks, experts are proposing what's called a layered defense framework. Because no single intervention is going to be enough, governance requires overlapping controls. This means instituting capability restrictions right on the AI models themselves, implementing use time controls to monitor exactly how these tools are applied, creating materials choke points like mandatory DNA synthesis screening so biological code can't just be maliciously printed, and finally investing heavily in rapid detection and response. For any organization entering this space, integrating this framework isn't just a good idea, it is essential, non-negotiable risk management. Finally, let's wrap up with Section 6, the bio-based economy. This really brings us to the macro vision and the long-term trends that are going to shape the future of global industry over the next few decades. The ultimate trajectory of combining AI and synthetic biology is the transition from traditional resource-heavy manufacturing to a fully engineered, sustainable bio-based society. I want to stress this is not just an academic science project. It is a fundamental economic shift. We're entering an era where disease can be anticipated and engineered right out of existence before it even manifests, and where industrial production is biologically optimized at the cellular level. Which leaves us with one final critical thought to chew on today. If we are reaching a point where we can engineer biology as predictably, rapidly, and cheaply as we write computer software, what industry will be disrupted next? Whether you're in pharmaceuticals, agriculture, energy, or manufacturing, the AI bioconvergence is coming to your sector for sure. The only question is whether you'll be the one driving the disruption or the one reacting to it. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. I'll see you next time.